There's a difference between being authentic and being emotionally naked too soon. In today's dating world, where openness is encouraged, many women confuse vulnerability with full disclosure, thinking that revealing everything will create closeness, when in fact, it often does the opposite. The truth is, respect and attraction are not born from how much someone knows about you, but from what they earn the right to discover. If you give everything away too quickly, your fears, your history, your heart, you shortcut the process of building healthy connection and give someone power they haven't proven they can handle. Men, like all people, respect what they have to work to understand, not what's laid out on the table without discretion. That doesn't mean playing games or being manipulative. It means being wise, intentional, and self-respecting. Because when you hold back the right things, not out of fear, but out of confidence, you communicate that your love, your time, and your vulnerability are not free giveaways. They're earned. This isn't about being cold. It's about being conscious of what makes a man not just desire you, but value you. And sometimes that value is preserved not by what you share, but by what you choose not to reveal. Let's get into the 6 powerful things you should never reveal too soon if you want his lasting respect. When you meet someone you're excited about, it's tempting to overshare in an attempt to build closeness quickly. But one of the first and most common mistakes people make is revealing their deepest insecurities too early in the relationship. We think that being real means bearing it all, talking about our self-doubt, our fears of not being good enough, or how past partners have left us broken. While vulnerability is powerful when shared with the right person at the right time, offering someone a front row seat to your emotional wounds too soon sends the wrong message. Not because you should hide who you are, but because real trust is built gradually, and so is respect. When you confess your insecurities too early, what you're really doing is handing someone a manual on how to define you. Instead of letting them discover your strengths, your values, and your self-worth, you're making your flaws the main story. You're saying, here's what's wrong with me, and I hope you'll stay anyway. That energy isn't empowering. It invites someone to see you through the lens of pity or tolerance rather than admiration and intrigue. And a connection built on pity or the need to fix someone rarely leads to mutual respect or long-term desire. We've been conditioned to think that openness equals intimacy. And while that's partially true, not all openness is created equal. Emotional intimacy doesn't come from dumping your baggage on someone. It comes from mutual understanding, shared experiences, and a sense of safety that is earned over time. If you meet someone and immediately confess that you feel insecure in relationships or don't believe you're good enough, you're not building a bridge, you're building a wall of worry around yourself. You're making them responsible for your emotional validation before they've even earned your trust. What people admire and respect is emotional resilience. When you hold your insecurities with grace, acknowledging them privately, working on them internally, and sharing them slowly, as trust grows, you signal strength. You show that you're self-aware but not self-defeating. A man who is truly worthy of your heart will want to know all of you, but he'll be far more drawn to a woman who knows herself first. He will respect the mystery and strength of someone who doesn't lead with their wounds, but lets their depth unfold with time. This doesn't mean you should pretend to be perfect or emotionally unshakable. It means you should honor the value of your emotional world. Not everyone deserves access to it right away. When you meet someone new, focus on showing your light before your shadow. Talk about what excites you, what you value, what you're building in your life. Let your confidence lead. That way, when you do share your struggles or the things you're working on, they come from a place of strength, not desperation. There's also something magnetic about emotional independence. When a man senses that you're not relying on him to soothe every part of your self-doubt, he respects you more. He sees you as someone who brings value to his life, not someone who's asking to be saved. And ironically, it's that self-sufficiency that makes him want to be closer to you. When you aren't constantly seeking reassurance or exposing your emotional bruises in hopes of connection, you create space for a bond that is based on admiration, not emotional dependency. The truth is, the person who truly deserves to know the depths of your heart is the one who showed consistency, kindness, and respect over time. Let them earn that right. Don't trade the mystery of your emotional world for momentary closeness. Because when you lead with your light and guard your shadow wisely, you teach someone how to treat you with care, with curiosity, and most importantly, with respect. Another crucial thing you should never reveal too early if you want to earn a man's respect is how deeply you crave commitment or a relationship, especially if it comes out as a form of emotional neediness. When you make it clear from the start that your primary goal is to find someone, settle down, or finally feel chosen, what he hears is not that you're a woman with strong values and relationship standards, but that you're a woman who's waiting to be completed. And nothing drains attraction or respect faster than someone who gives off the energy of needing another person to feel whole. Desire is not the same as desperation. One comes from choice, the other from fear. And men, just like women, can feel the difference immediately. When you express early on that you're seeking a serious commitment, that in itself isn't the issue. In fact, that can be incredibly attractive if it's communicated with clarity and self-assuredness. The problem arises when your desire for a relationship seems to override your sense of self-worth or boundaries. It becomes clear that you're not evaluating whether he fits into your life. You're just looking for someone to give your heart to, and he happened to show up. It's like walking into a job interview and saying, "I'll take anything, I just want the job." It might seem humble, but it sends the signal that you lack standards. That's not confidence, it's scarcity. In dating, this manifests as the kind of energy where you're willing to bend your values, move too quickly, or make excuses for behavior that doesn't meet your needs. All because you're focused more on securing a relationship than on ensuring it's the right one. People respect those who value themselves enough to be discerning. A woman who knows her worth doesn't rush into declaring that she wants something serious with someone she's just met. She lets the other person show her, through consistency, communication, and character, that he's worthy of being considered for something long-term. And because she's not fixated on getting to the relationship label, she gives off an energy of calm confidence. She's not in a hurry. She's not applying pressure. She's evaluating, not chasing. This doesn't mean you should hide your relationship intentions. Being upfront about your standards is powerful, but it's how you express them that makes the difference. Saying, "I'm looking for something meaningful, but I take my time deciding who gets that part of me," is very different from saying, "I'm just so tired of being single, I want to find someone already." The first version shows strength and discernment. The second shows weariness and fear. And fear does not inspire respect. It invites someone to take advantage. When you lead with a strong sense of self, you're not asking someone to rescue you from loneliness. You're showing up as someone who already has a full life and is open to sharing it, not someone who's looking to fill a void. That energy is incredibly attractive. It tells a man that you want a partner, not a savior. And it reminds him that if he wants a place in your life, he's going to have to bring something real to the table. What commands the most respect is when someone senses that you could be with anyone, but you're choosing to give your time and energy to them, not out of need, but from a place of genuine desire and mutual connection. That's when you become unforgettable, not because you were desperate to be chosen, but because you were confident enough to choose wisely. Another thing you should never reveal too early if you want to maintain a man's respect is your complete emotional history, especially the parts where you were hurt, betrayed, or broken down by someone else. While honesty is important in any relationship, timing is everything. There's a difference between vulnerability and emotional unloading. When you share too much too soon about your past wounds, especially with someone who hasn't yet earned your trust, you create an uneven emotional dynamic that often works against you. It might feel natural to open up about your past experiences. After all, you want to connect and show the depth of who you are. But when a man barely knows you, and you're already telling him how your ex cheated on you, how hard it's been to trust again, or how much pain you've carried, he doesn't see a brave woman, he sees a fragile one. And more importantly, he sees a woman who might not have fully healed. That emotional rawness doesn't evoke protectiveness, it often activates avoidance. Especially in the early stages, when he's still figuring out what kind of energy you bring to his life, your pain can unintentionally become a burden. You are absolutely allowed to have a past. We all do, but the past shouldn't walk into the room before you do. When a man starts to get to know you, what he's subconsciously paying attention to is, does being around her make me feel good? Does she elevate my energy? Or do I feel like I'm stepping into emotional heaviness I didn't sign up for? The irony is, many women think that sharing their scars early on builds intimacy, but true intimacy is not about exposure. It's about pacing. It's about choosing when and with whom to go deep based on trust, not urgency. You don't owe someone you just met the full story of your emotional battles. You owe yourself the grace of sharing only with people who have earned that privilege through respect and consistency. When you reveal too quickly that you've been hurt badly or carry unresolved wounds, a man may see you as someone who hasn't yet rebuilt herself. And if he sees you as someone still in emotional recovery, he's less likely to see you as someone ready for a strong and balanced relationship. There's also another layer to this. When you reveal your emotional past too quickly, you risk being unconsciously defined by it. You may think you're just being transparent, but he may walk away thinking, she's still carrying baggage. Even if that's not how you see yourself, you want to be seen for the strength you've built since that pain, not the pain itself. You want to be remembered for your light, not for the shadow someone else left behind. A woman who commands respect doesn't pretend she's never been hurt. She simply doesn't lead with that hurt. She lets her strength and confidence take the spotlight. She talks about her passions, her current joys, her future goals. She speaks in a way that shows she owns her story, but she doesn't need to unpack all of it for someone who hasn't proven they deserve the deeper parts of her yet. When the right man comes along and the relationship begins to deepen, there will be time to open those doors, one by one, and when you do, it will come from a place of strength, not urgency. It will say, this is a part of me, but it no longer defines me. And that, more than anything, will make him respect not just your story, but the strength it took to write a new chapter. Another thing you should never reveal too early if you want a man's respect is your every insecurity. Not just the major ones that shaped your self-perception, but the subtle, everyday doubts you may have about how you look, how lovable you are, or how good enough you feel compared to other women. We live in a culture that glorifies vulnerability, and rightly so. Vulnerability has a beautiful place in intimacy, but what often gets confused is timing and context. There's a stark difference between authentic vulnerability and making someone else responsible for managing your self-worth. When you bring your insecurities into conversation too soon, especially in a romantic context, it shifts the balance in a way that's hard to recover from. For example, if you say, I'm sorry, I don't look like the kind of girls you probably go for, or I know I talk too much, I always annoy people. What you're doing, even unknowingly, is teaching him how to view you. You're framing yourself as someone who doesn't believe she's enough. And here's the truth. People treat you in accordance with the script you give them. So if your script is full of self-doubt, they may unconsciously agree with it. Men, like anyone, are drawn to people who radiate a sense of certainty in who they are. Not perfection, not arrogance, just quiet confidence. A woman who doesn't apologize for her presence. A woman who knows she's a work in progress, but doesn't center her flaws in the story she tells about herself. That kind of energy makes people lean in. That energy says, I know I'm not perfect, but I'm not here seeking your permission to feel worthy. And when you show up like that, you not only gain a man's interest, you earn his respect. There's also something psychologically powerful about mystery. When you don't lay all your insecurities out on the table, it doesn't mean you're hiding. It means you're being selective. It means you're showing restraint, emotional intelligence, and self-respect. You don't need to confess every doubt that crosses your mind to connect with someone. Sometimes, the most captivating thing you can do is sit comfortably in your own skin without needing validation for every part of it. It's important to note that this doesn't mean you should pretend to be someone you're not or that you should suppress your humanity. But there's a huge difference between saying, sometimes I feel nervous in big groups, but I'm working on it, versus nobody ever really pays attention to me in group settings, I just fade into the background. One shows ownership and growth, the other hands your worth over for someone else to decide. In relationships, what often makes a man respect a woman is not how she hides her weaknesses, but how she handles them. Do they rule her, or does she rule them? Does she speak like someone who has spent time getting to know her value, or like someone waiting for a man to determine it for her? Respect isn't something you demand, it's something that grows naturally when someone sees how you treat yourself. When you speak, especially in those early stages, ask yourself, am I revealing this because I want deeper connection or because I'm seeking reassurance? That question alone can shift everything. When you're centered in your own value, you're not constantly seeking signs of approval. You already approve of yourself, and the people you attract from that place are the ones who reflect that same energy back to you. Another crucial thing to avoid revealing too soon if you want a man's respect is your entire emotional history, especially the parts that involve past heartbreaks, betrayals, or vulnerabilities tied to previous relationships. Sharing your past too quickly can unintentionally place a heavy emotional burden on someone who hasn't earned the right to carry it yet. When you unload all your history in the early stages, it can create an imbalance where you become emotionally available before trust and safety have been fully established. This often leads to confusion or even distance because it can overwhelm the other person. Men, like everyone else, need time to understand your story in a way that's natural and paced, rather than rushed or forced. When you reveal too much of your emotional past too early, it's like opening a book to the middle. There's no context or build-up for the listener to truly grasp what you've been through or why it matters. Without that foundation, your story can be misunderstood or It can also make you appear overly dependent on their empathy or validation to heal your wounds, which can unintentionally undermine their respect. Respect is rooted in strength, not fragility. It grows from seeing someone who is whole, who has endured challenges but has not been defined or broken by them. When you hold back your entire emotional history, not out of secrecy, but out of self-protection and timing, you're showing that you value your own healing and growth. You're communicating that you are more than the sum of your past experiences, that you're focused on the present and the future. That is a powerful message because it shows resilience and self-awareness. There is also a psychological aspect to this. When you share your emotional history too soon, it can sometimes trigger pity rather than admiration. Pity is not a foundation for respect or attraction. It's a response based on sympathy, which can be a dangerous place to start a connection. On the other hand, when you reveal your past gradually, over time, and with the right person, it builds intimacy in a way that feels earned and safe. The kind of sharing invites respect because it shows you trust the other person enough to let them in, but only when the timing is right. It's important to realize that your emotional history is deeply personal and sensitive. It deserves to be treated with care and respect, not broadcast indiscriminately. When you guard your past with discernment, you also set a boundary for how you expect to be treated. You're silently telling him that you won't hand over your heart or your pain without seeing how worthy he is of that trust. That boundary alone commands respect because it shows you're not desperate for attention or approval. When you hold on to your emotional history, you're not closing the door on vulnerability. In fact, you're preserving the power of vulnerability. You're saving the most sensitive parts of yourself for someone who demonstrates he values you and respects your journey. And that changes everything. Men are wired to respect a woman who protects her emotional world. It creates a sense of reverence and care in how they approach her. It makes them realize that she is not just anyone. They have to earn the privilege to be part of her life at that level. Finally, not revealing your full emotional history right away forces both of you to focus on the present and on building new memories and experiences together. It encourages a relationship dynamic based on who you are now rather than who you were before. This is crucial because it keeps your connection fresh and forward-moving rather than stuck in the past. It allows you to define your own narrative and to let a man see your strength, growth, and hope rather than your wounds or pain. Timing is everything, and emotional history is no exception. Sharing it wisely, not withholding forever, but choosing the right moments and the right person, can deepen respect, attraction, and ultimately create a more meaningful, balanced, and loving relationship. The final thing you should never reveal too soon if you want a man's respect is your deepest fears and insecurities. This is something many women don't realize, but exposing your vulnerabilities too early can actually undermine the respect a man has for you. Not because he's unkind, but because respect often grows from seeing strength, confidence, and stability. When you share your deepest worries and doubts before a solid foundation of trust and security has been built, it can unintentionally shift the dynamic between you two, making you appear less grounded and more emotionally dependent. There's a natural impulse to open up when you want to be close to someone, and that's absolutely normal. But the timing and the way you share your fears matter greatly. If you unload all your doubts and anxieties right away, the man might not yet be equipped to respond in a way that supports you. Or worse, it can create confusion or discomfort because it feels like a lot of emotional weight to carry before the relationship has even had a chance to develop properly. Respect isn't about being perfect or never having fears, but it's about how you hold yourself and your emotional world. When a woman reveals her insecurities too early, it can sometimes push a man into a caretaker role rather than a partner role. Suddenly, the relationship becomes about managing emotions rather than enjoying connection, fun, and mutual growth. This caretaker dynamic rarely inspires respect because it feels less like a balanced partnership and more like emotional labor for him. Men want to feel drawn to a woman's strength and the confidence she carries, not overwhelmed by the need to constantly reassure or fix. Respect is fundamentally linked to how you carry yourself and how you communicate your worth. When you keep your deepest fears private until you know someone well enough, you're showing that you value yourself and your emotional well-being. You're setting a boundary that your vulnerabilities are precious and that you won't expose them without someone proving he deserves to see them. This not only protects you, but also creates an aura of mystery and strength that naturally draws respect and admiration. Another important factor is that revealing your insecurities too soon can sometimes lead to misunderstandings or misinterpretations. A man might mistakenly believe that your fears define you, or that you're constantly in need of support, which can create distance rather than closeness. People are attracted to confidence and stability because these qualities promise emotional safety and reliability. When you manage your insecurities wisely, revealing them gradually and in the right context, it builds intimacy in a way that feels safe and earned. It's also crucial to recognize that respect is earned through how you handle your challenges, not simply by sharing them. When you face your fears internally and show resilience, you demonstrate strength. That strength invites respect. Men want to be with a woman who is self-aware and self-reliant, someone who may have vulnerabilities but chooses to stand tall despite them. This doesn't mean you never share your fears. It means you wait until the relationship has grown enough to support that level of openness without jeopardizing how he perceives you. Moreover, keeping your fears guarded initially allows you to stay in control of your emotional narrative. You remain the author of your story, deciding when and how much to share. This control translates into power and respect because it shows that you are not desperate for validation or reassurance. You project confidence and security, which are magnetic qualities that naturally attract respect from men. Ultimately, a man will respect you far more when he sees that you are composed, confident, and managing your inner world with grace. He will feel honored when you choose to share your vulnerabilities with him, rather than feeling burdened by them. Respect grows when a man senses that you are a strong, whole woman who is choosing to let him in, not because you need him to fix your fears, but because you trust him and value the connection. Timing, discretion, and self-awareness are key. Protecting your deepest fears until the right moment is a form of self-respect that commands respect in return. It ensures that your relationship is built on admiration and strength, rather than emotional overwhelm or imbalance. This careful balance is what ultimately creates a lasting, respectful, and meaningful connection. At the heart of every strong and lasting relationship lies a foundation of respect. Respect that's earned by the way you carry yourself, by the boundaries you set, and by the way you manage your inner world. When you guard your deepest fears and vulnerabilities wisely, you're not hiding who you are. You're protecting your energy and your worth. You show that you're a woman who values herself enough to only share her most intimate parts with someone who has truly earned that trust. This is how you create magnetic confidence that draws respect naturally. Remember, respect isn't given, it's commanded by the way you love yourself first and foremost. When you do this, you don't just attract respect, you inspire it. And that's the difference between fleeting attention and a connection that stands the test of time.